Hello, and welcome back to the Johnson JH-22 outboard motor series. Now, if you're looking behind me and saying, hey, that's not the JH-22, you're right. That is the JW-12, and this is my own motor. It was not working. However, I was able to get it running following the same process as the JH-22. So the JW-12 is a 1956 motor. It's also a 3 horsepower. And the magneto system, the carburetor, the fuel tank, everything is pretty much the same. The only difference is that on the carburetor, instead of the high speed, instead of that plug, there's a high speed control valve. So take a look at how I got this motor to run. Let's see if the motor starts. So we got the JW-12 to run, which is great. And since the JW-12 is so similar to the JH-22, now we can start swapping some parts around to see if we can get the JH-22 to work. So initially I suspected that the ignition system and the magneto was the issue with the JH-22. And since the JW-12 ran, I thought, oh, the magneto must be in great condition. Let's swap it into the JH-22. Well, take a look at how the magneto looks. Okay. I don't even know how this motor ran with this magneto. The coils are all cracked. And you can see there's just so much grime and dirt that's built up on it. But surprisingly, it works, and I think we can still learn a lot from it, especially the timing of how the ignition is set up and translate that to the JH-22 system. So let me show you what I mean. Take a look at the difference between these two right now. So on the JW-12, you can see that the cam, the widest part of the cam is right on top of the P and the O. And when I turn the cam, take a look at the point. Let me Okay, so when the P reaches the side of the point opens right there. You can see the point is open, and it opens fully once it gets to the O. Right there. Okay, and if we measure the distance between the points, I have my feeler gauge. So let's see, 0.20 thousandths of an inch right here. It feels tight. So the distance between the point is actually less than 20 thousandths of an inch. I'll go ahead and try out the different ones and measure it and let you know what it is. But when we continue to turn the cam, you'll notice that the point stays the same distance apart. And then closes. Here is the JH-22, and you can see there's a difference between how the cam looks, and in the JH-22, at the end of the top, there's an arrow. Do you see that? There's an arrow after the P. And when that arrow hits the side of the point, that's when the point opens. So see, right there, the point is open. And I've set that to 20 thousandths of an inch, but I notice that as I continue to turn the cam, if you watch the points closely, it continues to widen. You see that? It gets even wider. And when it's on top of the O is where it's widest. And if you set the points to 20 thousandths of an inch at the arrow, when it gets to the O, it's actually wider than 20 thousandths of an inch. And as the cam turns, then it closes. Okay. And it's the same thing on the other side. So right now it's very close to that arrow. You see, as soon as I get the arrow on it, the point opens, and that's what I've set to 20 thousandths of an inch. And as it continues to turn, as it gets to the O, you see the points get wider. So I think what I'll do is I'll set the points to be the same as the JW12 and then see if that will make a difference in terms of the timing. So after setting the points on the JH-22, I tried the pop test again and the motor popped. However, when I put everything together and tried to run it, again, it didn't run. It didn't even pop or at all. So I think what this made me think is that the ignition system is not the issue, even though initially it may have been the continuation of the spark generation. Now that we have replaced the condensers and it pops, that means the timing is correct and the engine is, has good compression and spark, but somehow the fuel is still not getting into the chambers. So what I did was I replaced the carburetor from the JW12 onto the JH-22 and take a look at what happened. So using the same starting process as the JW12, first I opened the gas vent as well as the fuel valve, then put the choke on and set the throttle lever to slightly above the start. After giving it about 2 to 3 pulls, I then took the choke off and then continued to pull. I quickly noticed that water was not pumping through the cooling system, and since smoke was starting to come out of the motor as well, I didn't want it to run it for too long, so I turned it off. But the great news is that the motor runs. I'm so glad that we were able to get the motor to run. Even though it's with the JW12 carburetor, I think it's very clear now what the problem was. So we confirmed that the spark is good and the compression, and after changing the condensers in the magneto, now the spark generation is consistent. So the issue really is just this carburetor. So what I'll do is I'll take it apart, clean it again, make sure that it's put together the right way, and then even take a look at the lower body and replace the impeller to make sure that the cooling system is working the next time that we start the motor. And I'll show you all of that in the next episode. Stay tuned.